Welcome to True Crime Threads, where secrets unravel and silence turns deadly. Today, we uncover the chilling truth behind a royal affair that ended in murder on a bride's wedding night. Nadia Khan was just 23 years old when her lavish wedding was announced in Lahore's elite circles. Born into a well-known political family, Nadia had always been in the public eye. Her photos often appeared in society magazines. Her fashion choices were discussed in beauty blogs, and her name was commonly mentioned at charity events. Her soon-to-be husband, Faizan Malik, was a self-made millionaire with real estate projects across the Gulf. The wedding was expected to be the union of influence and wealth. Invitations were gold-embossed, and the guest list included celebrities, politicians, and foreign dignitaries. Every detail of the ceremony was curated to perfection, from imported orchids flown in from Thailand to a French chef designing the multi-tiered wedding cake. Nadia wore a custom-designed bridal dress stitched with crystals imported from Italy. Faizan arrived in a vintage Rolls-Royce, escorted by a fleet of luxury cars. The entire event was covered by premium lifestyle channels, with drones hovering above to capture cinematic footage of the grand occasion. Behind all the glamour and flashing cameras, Nadia's expression rarely faltered. She smiled, posed, and said all the right things. No one questioned her glowing face or steady composure. Even those closest to her didn't notice the occasional flicker of tension in her eyes or the moments when her hands trembled slightly during the ring exchange. The guests only saw a confident young woman stepping into a fairy tale. Every inch of the wedding projected success and happiness, and nothing seemed out of place. Weeks before the wedding, however, a few whispers had emerged, rumors of Nadia's past summer trip to Dubai, where she had reportedly attended exclusive private parties hosted by Gulf elites. These murmurs surfaced through online gossip pages, but were quickly silenced. Her family status ensured that no story gained traction. A journalist who tried to dig deeper was threatened with legal action and went silent. As a result, nothing made it into mainstream headlines. In the world outside, the couple's image remained untarnished. Nadia's bridal photos flooded social media, earning thousands of likes and glowing comments. Her followers admired her elegance, her grace, and the romantic narrative unfolding before them. Little did they know that Nadia was carrying a truth buried deep within her Roni she could never share, not even with her closest friends. A secret tied to her trip to Dubai, a secret she hoped would disappear with time. But it hadn't. It had only grown stronger and more dangerous. As the wedding celebrations unfolded over 3 days, with dokes, musical nights, and fireworks, Nadia remained at the center of it all. She went through each event with calculated precision, checking her phone frequently, looking behind her shoulder now and then, and taking deep breaths when she thought no one was watching. Her mother attributed it to pre-wedding nerves. Her cousins thought she was simply overwhelmed by the scale of the events. But the truth was darker. Nadia knew something or someone new was coming, and no matter how many walls of silk, security guards, or ceremonies surrounded her, she couldn't shake the fear that her past would arrive uninvited. During a 3-week stay in Dubai just 6 months before her wedding, Nadia had been introduced to Prince Said Al Nahyan, a lesser-known member of the Emirati royal family. The meeting happened at a private yacht party hosted by a mutual acquaintance, a fashion consultant who often organized elite gatherings for royals and influencers. Prince Said wasn't part of the ruling line, but carried the name and the lifestyle that came with it. His presence was quiet but commanding, known in close circles for his lavish taste and guarded personality. Said rarely appeared in public without careful planning. Nadia had caught his attention that evening, not only because of her beauty, but because she was new, unfamiliar, and different from the women in his usual circles. Their interaction began innocently. A short conversation about art turned into a long discussion over expensive wine. From there, the meetings grew more personal. Within a few days, Said sent a chauffeur to her hotel and invited her to his penthouse suite overlooking the Persian Gulf. Nadia, both curious and flattered, accepted. What followed was a series of secret rendezvous hidden behind thick curtains and underground parking lots. They dined at hidden restaurants, walked private beaches, and shared hours in rooftop pools where no cameras were allowed. Zaid gifted her things she couldn't have imagined: diamond jewelry with her initials engraved, custom-made perfumes, and limited-edition designer pieces not yet released to the public. As the days passed, Zaid became increasingly drawn to her, and his attention turned obsessive. He had her followed when she wasn't answering his calls. He began asking personal questions about her life back in Pakistan, her family's influence, and her future plans. He wasn't just intrigued, wanted control. Nadia, initially mesmerized by his charm and wealth, started sensing the shift. What started as luxury and romance became surveillance and intensity. Zaid would call repeatedly if she didn't reply immediately. When she once turned off her phone for a few hours, she found to miss visits from his security team waiting outside her hotel room. When Nadia informed him she was getting married back home in Pakistan, she expected anger or pleading. Instead, Zaid stayed calm. Eerily so. He didn't argue or protest. He simply told her she belonged to him. His tone wasn't threatening, but it wasn't casual either. It was a cold, firm statement that lingered in her mind. She tried to laugh it off and insisted their connection had been fleeting. Zaid didn't respond. The next day, a black velvet box arrived at her hotel. Inside it was a sapphire bracelet with a single note: "You remember." Nadia returned to Pakistan shaken but determined to move forward with her life. She deleted the messages, threw away the gifts, and blocked all the numbers tied to Dubai. She buried the memory, thinking distance would help it fade, but something inside her remained unsettled. Zaid had not made threats, but his silence was louder than words. She knew enough about power to recognize when someone didn't need to speak to be dangerous. Nadia underestimated the kind of man he was. She believed the affair was over, but for Zaid, it had just begun. As the wedding approached, Nadia tried to erase all traces of her past with the prince. She began by changing her phone number and blocking every contact tied to her time in Dubai. The sapphire bracelet was sold discreetly through a friend, and the apartment Zaid had put in her name was left untouched, its keys mailed back without a return address. She even created a new email account and set her social media profiles to private. Everything about her screamed moving on. Yet something in the air felt heavier each day. Her instinct told her the past was not finished with her. Then the strange events began. A week before the wedding, an envelope arrived at her salon appointment with no sender. Inside it was a photo of her and Zaid sitting at a restaurant in Dubai, a place she thought was private. On the back of the photo, written in neat handwriting, were the words, "You still belong to me." She frowned, palms sweaty, heart racing, unsure whether to tell anyone. She chose silence, unsure of who to trust or how far this reached. Not long after, her wedding dress designer received a phone call from someone pretending to be her, requesting a cancellation of the final fitting. The voice used perfect Urdu with a slight Emirati accent. When the designer confirmed it with Nadia directly, she brushed it off as a prank. Days later, her event planner was contacted by a relative who insisted that the venue be changed to a different location at the edge of the sea. The call came from a Dubai-based number. When confronted, the caller never responded again. Her father noticed her stress and increased the house security as a precaution. Armed guards were stationed outside their residence, and a surveillance system was activated. Still, it didn't stop the sense of being watched. Nadia began to notice a tall man, in golf attire, lingering near her home. He stood across the street on separate evenings, never making contact, never moving closer. He didn't return after security swept the area, but the memory stayed etched in her mind. No one else recognized him. He didn't match any guest expected for the wedding. Her sleep became restless, her appetite declined, and even during her Mehndi celebration, she appeared distant. Her cousins assumed it was the stress of wedding preparations. Her mother suggested she take a short break before the big day. But Nadia knew rest would not help. She was not just overwhelmed. She was scared, terrified, in fact, that someone had crossed borders to remind her that she could never walk away freely. Despite her fears, the wedding went on as scheduled. Hundreds of guests filled the banquet halls. Music echoed through decorated courtyards, and photographers captured every smile. Nadia wore her bridal dress like armor, each step measured, each moment calculated, but her eyes scanned the crowd constantly. She checked her phone more than once, even though she knew it would bring nothing good. As the night ended and she left for the hotel suite with Faison, a chill ran through her. She had done everything to bury the past, but somehow it had found her again, and this time it was closer than ever. The wedding night began like a dream. Faison and Nadia checked into a luxury bridal suite at a five-star hotel in Islamabad. The suite was reserved months in advance, decorated in deep reds and golds, with fresh roses arranged across the king-size bed and candles sliding every corner. Hotel staff greeted them with soft music and champagne, and a private butler was assigned to their floor for the night. The couple arrived just before midnight, smiling for a final set of photos before the door closed behind them. Everything appeared perfect from the outside, but what unfolded inside that room would leave a permanent scar on everyone who knew them. By morning, the hotel staff had no choice but to intervene. Their butler had knocked several times to deliver breakfast, but there was no answer. Calls to the room went unanswered. Following protocol, hotel management used the master key to enter. What they discovered was nothing short of horrifying. Nadia lay lifeless on the floor, still in her bridal dress, the fabric soaked in blood. Her body showed signs of a struggle, bruises on her arms, marks on her neck, and blood trailing from her hairline. Faison was found nearby, unconscious, with blunt force injuries to his head. A crystal vase, shattered on the carpet, appeared to be the weapon. Paramedics arrived quickly. Nadia was declared dead at the scene. Faison was rushed to a private hospital and placed under intensive care. News of the incident reached the top levels of hotel management within minutes, but police involvement was delayed. The family was alerted discreetly, and attempts were made to keep the story from leaking. Surveillance footage was immediately pulled and reviewed. Most of it seemed ordinary, showing only the couple entering the suite, laughing and holding hands. But then came the 10-second glitch. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the hallway camera outside their room flickered and blurred. In that moment, a figure dressed in white appeared on the screen, moving swiftly and carrying something long in hand. The image was distorted, but clear enough to suggest someone had entered the floor unnoticed. The suite's balcony door was found unlocked. There were no signs of forced entry through the main door, no broken locks or pried open windows. However, on the balcony railing, smudged fingerprints were discovered. Forensics ran the prints through local databases with no match. One partial print, lifted from a wine glass inside the room, raised more questions. That print belonged to an international traveler who had entered the country just 48 hours before the wedding. No immigration record existed for his arrival. The name used was fake, but further investigation tied the print to someone who had traveled frequently under diplomatic clearance, a man with connections to the Gulf royal circles. That man was Prince Said. Before any arrest warrant could be issued, he had already departed. A private jet took off from a military base the same afternoon, flying directly to Dubai. No customs, no security, no record. The investigation slowed instantly. Police inquiries were redirected. Reporters were warned. Nadia's death certificate listed accidental trauma. And just like that, what should have been the happiest night of her life became a crime scene with no justice. The evidence was buried as quickly as her body. Before police could issue an international notice, Zaid had already left the country in the same private jet that brought him in. The aircraft had clearance to land and depart through a military airstrip, bypassing all standard immigration and customs procedures. By the time investigators confirmed his identity, he was no longer in Pakistan. The court v glitch, the falsified guest log, and the untraceable diplomatic credentials made it nearly impossible to hold him accountable. The few officers who attempted to push the case further were reassigned or silenced. The Pakistani government never publicly acknowledged the presence of a foreign royal in the investigation. There were no press conferences, no appeals for justice, no statements made by law enforcement. It was as though the murder had occurred in a vacuum. Nadia's family issued a brief and vague public announcement. They stated that she had passed away due to an unexpected medical emergency. The funeral was conducted quietly, Away from cameras and curious eyes, her social media accounts were deactivated, her photos pulled from public platforms, and even her name was gradually erased from news cycles. The hotel suite was shut down temporarily for renovations, and all staff on duty that night were either transferred or given paid leave indefinitely. The management refused to speak to journalists. What little information leaked was passed through anonymous sources and quickly drowned under the weight of powerful influence. Faison eventually recovered, though the physical and psychological trauma left lasting damage. He remained hospitalized for several weeks before being discharged under private care. He refused to speak to investigators, friends, or media. His family made arrangements for him to leave the country shortly afterward. He relocated to the United Kingdom, where he purchased property under a new business venture. Since that move, he has avoided all interviews, refused all questions, and declined to participate in any investigation into Nadia's death. Whatever he witnessed that night, he chose never to speak about it again. Behind closed doors, rumors swirled, whispers of money exchanged, threats made, evidence destroyed. It was said that millions of dollars were paid to keep the story quiet, that certain files had been classified under national security directives, that higher-ups had received direct calls from foreign embassies, and those who tried to uncover more were either warned to stay away or found themselves dealing with unrelated legal troubles. The case file was eventually marked inactive. No one was ever charged. The footage from the hallway remained missing from official archives. The wine glass was misplaced during a lab transfer. The hotel floor where the crime occurred was repurposed and renamed. Nadia's story faded from headlines, but never from memory. Among those who knew her, the silence was louder than any confession. She was remembered not just for her elegance or charm, but for the mystery that surrounded her final night. Some said she had fallen in love with the wrong man. Others believed she was a victim of power games beyond her control. The truth may never be fully known, but one thing remains clear: what happened in that bridal suite was no accident. It was the end of a dangerous secret that began with desire and ended in death.